Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is a album review on Nine Inch Nails' 1989 album called Pretty Hate Machine. I probably got this album first in probably 1990, roughly. Probably shortly after. I'm not sure what time it was. Uh, Came out in '89. Probably in the late summer, if I'm remembering. Was the TVT. It was on the TVT label, I think. Um, yeah. Here's the inside of the record. It has all the lyrics and things like that. But yeah, it was probably came out in the summer of 1990, I think. There's definitely a huge buzz about it. I actually didn't get this copy until probably mid 90s, I would think. Um, Originally, I got these in 1991. Um, yeah, I didn't mean I got this in 91. I probably heard it sometime in 1990, mostly because I got these singles in 1990. You know, I had four of the, this had Down in It, Sin, of course, Sin's right here. Had like a Hole and Terrible Lie and Down in It is on here, so I already had four of the 10 songs on there. And I heard the album that year, and it wasn't necessarily a necessity to have the other songs, in my opinion, at the time. So, I waited around till I ended up, getting a used copy probably a few years later, sometimes in probably 94, 95, mid 90s or something like that. But these had great versions of the original on there. I love the mixes of Sin. The shred mix of Sin is amazing. The extended mix of Terrible Lie is great. The remixes of Head on a Hole are strong. And the remixes of Down In It are really good. I think it's the shred mix. Yeah, the shred mix. The Sin mix, I'm sorry, the dub mix of Sin and the long version is really cool. Terrible Lie, the sympathetic mix is really cool. Um, yeah, Down In It shred mix. Yeah, just, and they had like whole mixes are a little bit stronger, I feel like, than the singles. So I know these versions probably more so than the album versions. And so I do generally like these versions more so than the album versions. More music going on them. Maybe even a little bit less chorus, which is one of my issues with this album when I do the overall review. This is a 2000 and probably 2010 reissue. I think I got this. It says 2010. They kind of changed the colors on this a little bit, but it's still pretty cool. It's just regular old double vinyl on black. Nothing spectacular about it. This is probably a little bit before the huge boom of reissues kind of came out. This is one of the first reissues, 2010, so probably 20 years after, roughly, when it came out. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over the songs and give you my overall assessment of the album, and then give it a score. So a couple of these songs were really hard to rate. This is definitely an album that has, some of the songs are sound a little dated, right? But there's good memories there. I definitely have to think about the perspective of when it was made. There was a lot of raw. 1989 was a lot of raw kind of industrial sounds and late '80s, and I think of like Manufacture or Final Cut or you know um, just a lot of like Meat Beat Manifesto. A lot of raw kind of sounds in late '89. It was very not a lot of atmosphere. Not a lot of in those days like the '89, you could probably get away with maybe having an 8-track mixer on some of these tracks to do the final mix down. Just not a lot of atmosphere, not a lot of sounds, not a lot of audio processing. Something might have one sound and maybe an effect, and that's pretty much it. And now things are a lot more layered. So that is kind of a little bit of a drawback looking back on this album, but when especially when you compare it to like Downward Spiral, just such a much more atmospheric and more well produced album. But this has some really good songs on it, no doubt. There are some drawbacks, and I'll kind of go over that. But there's definitely a lot of good songs. So when I think of like first song, Head Like a Hole, obviously strong instrumental, bass line, good lyrics, vocal performance strong, powerful chorus. I like all the instrumentals going on. The drum programming is cool. The backing vocals is kind of cool. Backing samples and stuff like that is really cool. Um, I really struggled to whether I'd give this kind of an excellent rating. It's just really close. I got it at 3 3/4 stars, and that's on the high side of very good. So it was really close to 4 stars, but I just when I compare it to like a song that I do give a 4 star on here, I feel like maybe Head Like a Hole is not as strong, but in some ways it is certainly a classic. Do I feel like it's been overplayed? Probably. Maybe that's hurting it just a little bit from being a 4 star. I really, when in my rating system for songs, it was stars 1 through 5. Of course, every step up, the stars category has a 1/4 star, so something could be 3 1/4 stars, or three and a half stars, or 3 3/4 stars. Once something gets up to like the next level, like a 3 or a 4 or even a 5, if that was possible, I really give it a little bit more judgment, and because when it gets to that next step, I really have to make sure it gets to that next step, and I can't feel that Head Like a Hole is excellent. Um, what are the drawbacks of it? Maybe that's overplayed. I can't really think of any reasons why it wouldn't be excellent, but I just don't feel like it's really there. Like for some reason, and it doesn't. I don't feel as confident in giving it a 4 stars as I do a couple other songs on this album. So yeah, I got it 3 3/4 stars. Still, obviously on this very strong side, very very good. Terrible Lie. Terrible Lie is like a personal favorite on this album. I do have it at 4 stars. It may not be as powerful as Head Like a Hole, but I feel like the lyrics are better. Even though the chorus might, the the vocals in the chorus may not be as unusual or as different as Head Like a Hole, or really the chorus is really only Terrible Lie, right? I mean, it's really not too much on the chorus. But I love the melody in this song. For the longest time, this was my favorite song on the album. I love the chorus. I love the melody again. It's just something about it is it's I just think it's the best melody on the album, and I'm really into melodies. The beats pretty good. Probably not as good as Head Like a Hole, but it's really close. I just have Terrible Lie edging it out a little bit at 4 star, and I feel like to me it's an excellent song. It's probably the song I think about one of the songs I think about most when I think about this album, and then probably that extra 1/4 star that makes the difference between these two songs is probably my memories of the song, and it has better melody, and then also maybe not being played as much, but also to that I do like the underdog songs. Like if you excuse me, if I can't really. Okay, let's think about like Tears for Fears. It might be a good example. Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world. It's it's a I wouldn't say it's a great song, but it is a very well written song. It's a very catchy song. But it's been played so much that if I gave that 3.5 stars or 3 3/4 stars, I don't think I would give it an excellent star as well. But then you have something like Shout, which is also played a lot, but I feel like it's a little bit of an underdog, a little bit different, maybe better beat and stuff like that. And I feel like maybe that's 4 stars, or maybe one of the other songs on that album could be 4 stars. That's kind of like an underdog song that I played more, that I feel like is underappreciated, that is less played and stuff like that. And that's kind of a little bit of that quarter star probably difference between Terrible Lie and Head Like a Hole is I feel like Terrible Lie is kind of that it's kind of that little more underground song on the album that I think in some ways is better. I will say Head Like a Hole is more catchy, stronger, stuff like that, but Terrible Lie is a little bit more moodier. And I like the melody again, so it's just kind of a close edge on that. Also, another one in that same conversation is Down in It. I got that 3 3/4 stars, so right the same as Head Like a Hole and just under Terrible Lie. I really like the 808 bass kick in the song, the beat. I thought the rap was pretty cool for the time. Chorus is okay. My, nothing's concerning about it. Nothing's it's all on the goods, very good side. 3 3/4 songs, but we're off to a great start with three super strong songs, and then Sanctified is another good one. Cool bass line, solid atmosphere, some of his better singing, a good balance of electronic and rock, and that's kind of what this album is kind of known for. Is that good early late 80s balance of rock and electronic music. I mean, you compare this to what else came out in 1989, especially on the rock side. You think of like Motley Crue, or on the more popular side, even something like Metallica or something like that. I mean, this, what was doing electronic and rock like this, in 1989 as well as this. I mean, I definitely want to keep that in perspective and not fully lose that perspective, even though some of this music sounds, a little dated. Trying to take my opinion out of it and my personal opinion on it, it does sound a little dated. Um, but I don't think that really hurts any of the scores that I give it. I'm not. I do like nostalgia a lot, and I do like. I'm very, 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 very in tune with putting things in perspective of what came out with it, and was it ahead of the time? I mean, if this album came out in 1996, yeah, I would think it sounds dated for the time, but this is 1989. I mean, this is in the early days of. This is still in the first, you know, I mean, industrial is still fairly a new genre then, especially on the popular side. I mean, this kind of album helped break industrial in America and basically, in a way, started the electronic and rock mix, which probably produced Korn and Linkin Park and all the music in the 90s, right? So, Nine Inch Nails was super important for that. But not as good as Skinny Puppy. Let's just put that in perspective, though. The Kings, Skinny Puppy, one of my favorite bands of all time. It's not a coincidence that I wore my Skinny Puppy shirt of Dig It um, on this video. I don't know if you can see Dig It here, but I did wear my Dig It shirt when I'm going to review Down in It. That wasn't a coincidence. But yeah, Sanctified, good balance of rock and electronic music. I like the balance of the heavierness and the chill. It's got a good guitar riff. Um, I got it 3 1/4 stars, so definitely above very good. Um, Again, the first half of this album is going great. Something I can never have. I got that also at 3 1/4 stars. This song always reminds me of the Woodstock performance when they're in the mud, and something I can never have. That kind of it was kind of that moment of I think he kind of he was probably in that moment like I made it. I this is powerful music. Like you can see when he does that concert, and especially this part of the song, like it's like he probably felt a lot of like euphoric and feeling that he did something good, because I think it's an amazing performance, and I think it's the perfect moody song for something like that, just covered in mud and a live performance and all eerie and stuff like that, and he sings it. It's too bad the Nine Inch Nails and just Woodstock in general was recorded better. Even though I don't like a lot of the bands that were there. I think it could have been better. They could have had some better artists over the most part. I don't think electronic music was represented as much as it could. With I can't remember who it was all in 1994, but I mean, I imagine like Green Day was there and stuff like that. Like, I don't think electronic music was represented enough. But I will say the Nine Inch Nails is was kind of the back then. I don't know how it's looked back at now, but Nine Inch Nails was the best performance of that, or the most impactful or different, performance of Woodstock. And we're looking back 30 years now. Um, I really like this dramatic and eerie, powerful. Probably could have skipped the last chorus, and that's the issue I have with the last ones of these album, the last songs of these albums. For the most part, the chorus go on a little bit too long. Um, it'd be a lot better if they maybe ended with just some of the melody and maybe a more atmospheric ending, and just. But it seems like every song he wraps up with the chorus again, and you're just like, okay, like I want to, like, the next song is just like, like, how many times you gotta say I want to, like, it's just kind of, probably some of these songs should have focused on a little bit more of a um, less less songs and a little bit more blending some songs. And the most of the instrumentals and stuff like that, thanks to Flood and the great producing of Adrian Sherwood and Keith LeBlanc. Uh, Rest in peace, Keith LeBlanc, who passed away, I think it was last year. Just some excellent producers, obviously, and um, yeah, I just I just think some of these songs with the music that's really strong for the time, especially, I think it could have gone on to be a little bit more ambient, or atmospheric, or just not going into a chorus for the third or fourth time. Like, even something like Head Like a Hole, that's a really tight song for the most part, and it clocks in like right around 4 minutes. But could it have been a touch shorter on Head Like a Hole? Maybe a little bit, but on some of these other ones, I think probably for sure, because it's just like, I don't think they needed to go on to another re- re- repetition of the chorus. But something I can never have, 3 1/4 songs. So I mean, when I look at the first half of this album, all are above very good, and ones I have excellent. So just a really strong first half of the album. And then Kinda I Want To, which I think is a cool beat. The way he sings the verses, the sounds are cool, the aggressiveness. Chorus is okay. He just says Kinda I Want To, and it just kind of, you know, it's got a lot of cool sounds in the song, but again, it drags on a little too long. Um, it's just it's probably one of the least impactful songs on the album. I got a 2.5 star. I still got it in the middle of good. Can't say it's very good though. And then we have Sin. I love the cha 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 cha. Those sounds coming in and starts out. It's a very driving song. Verses are cool. I love the bridge. The bridge is really important. The chorus is good. The sounds are cool. Melody is cool. Beat's great. Nice and tight song overall. I really like the remixes, but I'm trying not to, put that into my rating. But it probably does have a little bearing on my memory of these songs, and liking them. And I feel like Sin is one of my favorite songs on the album, so I have it 4 stars. An excellent song, I think. Um, that's what I get. Has some cool industrial sounds, mechanical sounds. I like the bass line. One of the more unique, probably, sound songs in the album, because it has that good bass line, and the mechanical sounds again. The lyrics are kind of It's just, but it does have a lot of cool sounds. It's just pretty cool, but it's also kind of basic. I like the melody at the end, but again, perhaps it goes on too long with the chorus. The melody builds back up and probably should have ended, and then the chorus comes back again. I do like the music. I don't mind if the music goes on, but it's just the chorus goes on forever, and just to do it again just makes me not feel like it's a very good song. So I got it 2 3/4. It's right on the high side of good though, and that's mostly because of the music, like the lyrics and the chorus. and then repeating the chorus too much just it kind of hurts it from being a very good song for me. So again, I got 2 3/4 songs. And then the only time, which I think everybody would probably agree on, is probably the weakest song on the album. I just have as my note. Just tries too hard, sounds dated, lyrics are Probably should have left it off the album. Do 9 songs instead of 10 and put an atmospheric intro on it or ending and call it a day. I mean, this album's pushing 48 minutes. Is it a little long? Maybe not so, but when you're pushing 5 minutes a song, maybe this one could have left off and put on a 2 or 3 minute intro and kind of keep it around 45 minutes. But yeah, I just got a half a star. It's not. It's not. It's a little less than okay. Just subpar. Nothing really strikes me about it at all. Really. There is one good sound on it. I can't remember which one. I think it's the keyboard lead to the entire song. But man, that's probably the only thing I gave it any stars, or a little on half a star. Ring Finger, the last song on the album. I think it's a decent ending to the album. Good music, melody, nice sounds. The lyrics and the verses are kind of subpar, but the chorus is much better when it comes to goes ring finger carved in stone. That kind of melodic start, that's pretty cool. It's a decent end of the album, not fantastic, but I got 2 1/4 stars. So really, kind of when you look at the second half of the album, I got 1 4-star song, and then all the other 4 are under 3 stars. So the second half of the album kind of hurts the overall rating of this album and enjoyment of this album for me. And that's why I can still look back and be like, you know, except for like Sanctified and Something I Can Never Have, and then there's like three all, I probably would have been happy of just getting the 4 singles. I mean, it's nice to have Something I Can Never Have and Sanctified. Those ones are the better ones that aren't those 4 songs, but yeah, when I look at the overall ratings of the song, I have 6 songs, 2 and 4 stars, 4 and 3 stars. There are 4 that are 3 stars and above, 3 that are 2 stars, and then I have 1 that's below 1 star. So those kind of hurts it. On average, though, it's actually when I add up and divide it by 10 songs, it's a total of 30 points. So it's averaging a 3.00 flat, which is very good. Uh, so I kind of take that into account when I take my ratings, and it's not the final end all be all of how I score an album, but it's a good balance of me giving an overall rating and kind of comparing it to my emotions on the album, my experience with the album, the intangibles of the album, all those things, production and etc. I just kind of rate the songs for what they are for the most part, and not get too nitty gritty and things with the songs, and just kind of do their overall, and that helps me kind of gauge the overall of the album. So when I think about the good things of this album, there's certainly some classic industrial songs on here. Had like A Whole, Terrible Lie, Down in It, Sin, just some very classic industrial songs for sure. Just it's obviously known for being a very good balance of electronic music and a guitar rock music feel. They did a great job with that. Trent's vocals are powerful in some ways. The producing is strong, even though it's a little bit dated, but not for the time. Flood, Adrian Sherwood, and Keith LeBlanc do a great job. It's a good length, I think. It's 48 minutes. It could be a little bit shorter. I like the graphics. I like that it's on TVT label, so all good with the packaging and everything like that. Um, yeah, it's a cool overall presentation. Good overall album. When I think of the what's maybe concerning or bad on it, again, perhaps a little dated, but it's 1989. This is 35 years later we're looking back on now. Some of the choruses are overdone again. It's just lyrics are pretty basic. Those kind of hurt it in some ways for me. Maybe a stronger 2 or 3 tracks, and this could be. I think this album could get in the 80s as far as like an excellent album, but it doesn't get there. And again, the lyrics kind of fall short in some ways. And then possibly, this, as much as Trent vocals sings really well in this, I think for the most part there's a lot of emotion in there and angst and powerful. I think there is a little bit of, even though I feel like he means it, there is a little bit of cheesiness in some of the songs. Maybe I don't know if I won't try to like critique his sensitivity in some of the songs, like "That's What I Get," or some of the lyrics in like "Ring Finger" and stuff like that. Just I mean, they're kind of I wouldn't say they're corny, but some of the relationship vocal lyrics is kind of like that's kind of whatever. But I just that's a small gripe. But he sings it with passion and stuff like that. So in the overall, he wins you over. He believes in what he's doing. Um, I won't say like a. I mean, there is like a there is like a believability in a lyricist who's gone through something to sing about something tough. You can't like a hip hop artist who hasn't been who sings gangster rap that hasn't isn't from difficult times in the streets and knows that kind of culture and that atmosphere, right? You can't have. That's why, like, when Hammer, even though Hammer probably did come from area, when he sang about gangster rap, it just didn't work, right? I mean, you can't take Vanilla Ice and all of a sudden then make him hard, right? That didn't work. So there's just some artists there has to be a believability in what they're singing, and Trent does that because I think he sings about relationships, and I do feel like he was a kind of a gothy kind of nerd that was out of character, living in Cleveland and out of sorts as far as not being understood, and maybe feeling like he wasn't understood, or people weren't relatable, or he wasn't popular, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's just so I do believe him in that respect, and that he can pull off the lyrics, but I also don't expect him to sing about something that Skinny Puppy would be singing in, about animal torture, or you know nuclear waste or something like that. Like if he was singing about that, then I'd be like, like come on, it's like, are you really into that stuff? Like so it's important to have lyrics, especially in industrial music. Industrial music is one of the more hardcore, probably like heavy metal or punk music. Like there's certain things you sing about. Like if you don't feel like the artist believes it, he kind of kills the song in a lot of ways, and that's why a lot of these genres will never be fully popular, because you some of the thinking and some of the culture aspects and how they sing and the power that they sing will never be fully appreciated unless the artist, the singer, can really pull it off and make the audience believe that it's part of their background, it's part of their something they believe in. If they don't, I mean, the hardcore fans will pick you apart like nothing. And I can't think of any industrial bands that do that for me, but because I don't listen to the ones that that I don't believe in. But I don't know. Is I won't mention any one in particular one that's. I was thinking of one that wasn't necessarily industrial, but it is what it is. But yeah, just I have the album overall at a 75 out of 100, right in the middle of very good. It's not on the low side of very good. I think if I didn't consider four of these songs industrial classics, close to classics, certainly a few of them, um, this might be in the lower 70s, maybe it's 70. But I think considering, it doesn't sound fully dated, and then also understanding the time of it, like I feel pretty confident in giving this a 75 out of 100. I'll definitely rate Downward Spiral higher. And it doesn't have as good of songs as this in some ways, as far as like a classic that you think of that you go to. Like Downward Spiral has certainly some classics with Closer to God and March of the Pigs, and And yeah, well, Reptile. There's certain songs on there that are of course hurt. And that are very memorable in their own ways. But I think the production and the album and the way it's produced, and I guess the difference is between making Pretty Hate Machine is like making an album, and then the way Dark Side of the Moon was worked out was like a composition, right? Or a lot of times they call it like a what do they call it, an album? Like a not like a theory or a, oh god, it's gonna bug me, but a something piece, like a not like a narrative piece, but I can't think of the word, but it, it's kind of like a um, I wouldn't say like a music, like a collage, like you made an album collage and you're using the songs more of like instruments and pacing and stuff like that, and you're trying to build like a full piece of art that flows. Um, and I can't think of the word. It's something piece. It's but it's kind of meaning like this is an artistic piece and not just a pop album or a compilation of songs or something like that. It's a something piece, like um, yeah. Anyways, it's kind of on the artsy side uh, of 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 a composition, making more of the album of a composition that flows together and works really well together than just a bunch of songs. And I feel like this is a bunch of songs where Downward Spirals I would rate higher than this. And even though some of the songs might not be as good or memorable as or as powerful as this, well, I would take away powerful because Downward Spiral, excuse me, is kind of the pinnacle of Nine Inch Nails. I would think most people would think. But yeah, it's just a. I think it's it'd be interesting to see what I rate Downward Spiral and kind of compare it. But I think that's one of the things that draw back is there's just a bunch of songs in here. There's really nothing that really. But that is kind of 1989 in a lot of ways. I think when I think of like Skinny Puppy or something, I think they did a better job of that when having some instrumental pieces and some intros and not and some songs are like 6 7 minutes. It's just it's a little bit more of an artsy side of doing an album than more so just okay, these are each one's a pop song, and that's what concerns me about a lot of the later songs on the album is the chorus goes on a little long. It's like Trent Reznor's making a song and he's like, okay, well, he's focusing a little bit too much on the song and making it a song by doing the chorus again, and every song is very verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. You know what I mean? It's very, and then a lot of the songs he feels like he has to go back into the chorus, and then when the music is actually really good, and that could really take on the song into another, maybe even uh, uh, another stanza of the song, or another elevation to the song, or another possibly a second part to the song evolving and making you want to revisit the song. There's two ways of thinking when you want to. The thing with pop music is they're short and concise to where you want to listen to them again, right? That's the whole idea of pop music. That's why a lot of pop music in the '60s, was like 2.5 minute songs. That's what people had not really the attention span on, but that was a concise pop song. Maybe not a lot to say in the '60s. A lot instrumentation was a little bit less, and it was more about the lyrics and the song and singing along and stuff like that. So the songs were a lot more like somewhere like barely 2 minutes, like the 2.5 minutes. So they were nice and tight, and doing that makes you want to listen to again. But also saying that in the opposite side of the spectrum is you have a song and let's say it's 5 minutes, and you do the music enough to where you want to take that journey again, and that's a different way of programming a song. But if you mix the two together, then you're really taking a chance on that, and you're trying to make a pop song short, but then you're at 4.5 minutes, like a lot of these songs are, and That's too concise to be a pop song, but it's not long enough to really draw out the instrumental. So leaving off that third chorus, leaving off the third verse and stuff like that, and playing with the music a little bit more and diving into it more would have made it more of a artsy, more of an interesting and maybe more complete sounding album than doing them as pop songs. And every song on this album is very concise, but they're averaging over 4.5 minutes a song. So it's hard to be poppy, but be 4.5, 5 minutes on songs. And that kind of hurts the album for me in a lot of respect. But I'm not talking about a lot. I'm talking about being the difference between being a 75 and being an 80. It could have gotten to the excellent, I think, if maybe one or two of these songs were dropped and maybe a little bit more of the instrumentals playing and evolved a little bit and expanded upon and a little bit more atmosphere. I think everything else is pretty solid. Great combination of rock and guitar. A great example of industrial music. Yeah, that's kind of what I have. Just curious, what's your opinion on Pretty Hate Machine is, and what would you score it out of one through 100? And do you have a favorite song on this album? But thanks for watching and on this video on Pretty Hate Machine and Nine Inch Nails.